Hi everyone, this is Dr. Pradeep Kumar. Today we are going to start the fifth unit, that is spectroscopy unit. In that, first topic is IR spectroscopy. Before enter into the IR spectroscopy topic, we need to know about the fundamentals of the spectroscopy, basics of the spectroscopy. Okay. What is mean by the spectroscopy here? The spectroscopy is a technique used to determine the structure of a compound by the study of the interaction between matter and electromagnetic radiation. Spectroscopy is a technique which is used for to determine or to identify the a unknown compound by study of the interaction between the matter and the electromagnetic radiation. Here what is the matter? Matter nothing but testing compound. It's a unknown compound. In this spectroscopy we are going to study the interaction between the unknown compound and electromagnetic radiation, isn't it? Yeah. Coming to uh, types of the spectroscopy. Here in general we have two types of spectroscopy is there. First one is absorption spectroscopy and second one is emission spectroscopy. Okay, first one is absorption spectroscopy and second one is emission spectroscopy. What is mean by the absorption spectroscopy? What is mean by the emission spectroscopy? Absorption spectroscopy is nothing but a spectra which is recorded while the molecule is absorbing the energy or absorbing the radiation. Absorption spectroscopy is nothing but a spectra which is recorded while absorption is there, isn't it? Absorption by the molecule. Then that type of spectra is known as absorption spectra. What is emission spectra? The spectra which is recorded while the molecule releasing or emitting the energy or radiation, isn't it? If a molecule is emitting or releasing the energy or radiation, then that type of spectra is known as emission spectra. These are the general types of the spectroscopy. Okay, if you see here, EMR means here electromagnetic radiation. In the electromagnetic radiation, we have so many types of radiations are there. For example, we have UV visible, IR, NMR, microwave, gamma, and X-rays. These are the types of the electromagnetic radiations. From this electromagnetic radiation, yeah, depending upon the absorption of the molecule, there is a spectra. If the molecule is absorbs UV visible radiations, what will happen? Actually here the excitation of electrons can take place. Then we will get UV visible spectrum. If IR radiations can absorb, what will happen? If the molecule is absorbs IR radiation, then vibration changes will occur. The vibration levels changes will occur. So there we will get IR spectrum. If the molecule is absorbed or the molecule if focused on radio frequency, then spin rotational changes can occur. Then we will get NMR spectrum. We will discuss in detail one by one. Okay. This is the electromagnetic spectrum. Electromagnetic spectrum nothing but the entire range of light that exists. Light is a wave of altering electric and magnetic fields. We already know about this, isn't it? Light is a wave of alternating electric and magnetic fields, isn't it? Yeah. Here this is the range of the different rays. Which is called as the electromagnetic spectrum. spectrum. If you see here, from gamma to radio frequency will decreases, isn't it? Radio frequency nothing but it's a energy will decrease from gamma to radio frequency, isn't it? Gamma is having high energy or high frequency, and radio frequency is having lowest energy or lowest frequency range. Okay, this is known as electromagnetic spectrum. In this electromagnetic spectrum, which rays can absorb by the molecule is depends their spectra. The spectra will depends on this absorption of rays. Okay, we will discuss later one by one. Here, radiation energy versus change in a molecule. Okay, radiation energy nothing but the energy which is absorbed by the molecule versus change in a molecule. What will happen in the molecule when the radiation or energy can absorb by a molecule? The strength of the radiation energy will interact with the molecules in different ways. The radiation energy will interact with the molecules in different ways. We will see. Here, high energy sources produce breaking of bonds. If we expose the molecule to the X-rays or gamma rays, what will happen? If we expose a molecule to the X-rays or gamma rays, what will happen? The molecule can broken, isn't it? High energy, these are the high energetic rays which can cleave the bonds between the atoms, isn't it? These are the high energetic rays which can break the bonds between the atoms. If medium energy sources like UV visible rays, what will happen? If we expose a molecule to this radiation, that is UV visible radiation, what will happen? Here the excitation of the electrons can take place. The excitation of the electrons can take place, isn't it? When we expose this UV visible spectroscopy to a molecule, then the electron goes to the high exciting levels from the ground state, isn't it? Ground state to excited states. What will happen if low energy sources produce? What will happen if low energy sources like infrared, if we expose this infrared to a molecule, they produce the vibrations in chemical bonds, produces the vibrations in chemical bonds. Very low energy sources like microwave and radio waves, if we expose to a molecule, then rotation of the chemical bonds can take place. Here rotation of the chemical bonds can take place, isn't it? You see here, high energetic sources, if we expose high energetic sources, bond breakage can take place. Medium energy sources, if we expose it to a molecule, then excited electrons excitation can take place. If low energy sources produce exposes to a molecule, then the vibrations in chemical bonds can take place. If very low energy sources like microwave and radio waves, if we expose to a molecule, then the rotation of the chemical bonds can take place. This is the relation between the radiation energy and change in a molecule. What is the principle behind the IR spectroscopy? What is the principle behind the IR spectroscopy? Molecules are made up of atoms linked by bonds. We already know atoms are made up, isn't it? Molecules are made up of atoms linked by bonds. We already know the movement of atoms and the chemical bonds like spring and balls. The movement of the atoms and the chemical bonds like spring and balls. This is generates the vibration, isn't it? This is generates the vibration. If we assume that is it is a molecule, diatomic molecule, these two are atoms and the spring we will consider as a bond. Balls are the atoms and the spring can consider as a bond, isn't it? If you see here, this is a stretched one, isn't it? This is a stretched one. Stretched bond is there, stretched bond is there, isn't it? if you see here, it is a compressed bond. It is a compressed bond. It is the equilibrium bond length, isn't it? It is a equilibrium bond length. That means here there is a stretching compressed forces, isn't it? Here spring force uh, will occupy like this, and here the spring force occupy like opposite ways, isn't it? The stretched one and spring force both are opposite in the directions. If you stretched, elongation and spring force will occur in the quite opposite way, isn't it? Here if we compressed, then the spring force will opposite to the compressed one. This is the mode of the bond. This is the mode of the bond and atoms can take place in the molecules. This characteristic vibration are called natural vibration. The energy of molecular vibration is quantized. Here we'll see. When EMR, that is electromagnetic radiation, if we applied that, the molecule can absorb higher frequency, then applied infrared frequency is equals to natural frequency of vibration. When the natural frequency of a vibration equal to the applied infrared frequency, what will happen? There is a resonance will be generated, isn't it? There is a resonance. Then absorption of IR radiation takes place and a peak is observed and a band is observed. Then we will get the spectrum, isn't it? If you see here, this is energy, it is a spectrum, this is the energy level, and this is the wave number, okay, wavelength. And what will happen here? Here generally CO2 molecule is a linear one, isn't it? CO2, that is carbon dioxide molecule, is a linear one. When it is absorb the IR radiation, what will happen? The bending can take place here, isn't it? The bonds bending can takes place here, isn't it? Then releasing also, if we need to goes to relaxation mode again by emitting the energy, isn't it? By emitting the energy. This is a simple mechanism behind the spectrum. Okay, we'll see in detail. Different functional groups absorb characteristic frequencies of IR radiation, hence gives the characteristic peak value. Different functional groups, each functional group is having their own characteristic value. Each functional group is having their own characteristic value. That is, if we have the aldehyde functional group, there is a value, fixed value. If we have the OH, there is a fixed value. If we have the C double bond C, there is a fixed value. So hence gives the characteristic peak of the value here. Okay. Therefore, IR spectrum of a chemical substance is a fingerprint of a molecule for its identification. Therefore, IR spectrum of a chemical substance is a fingerprint of a molecule for its identification. Fingerprint means it is one, it is the fingerprint means it is different for each one, isn't it? It is a different for each one. That's in the same way each functional group is having its own value, characteristic value, IR value. Like a fingerprint, no two unique molecular structures produce the same infrared spectrum. Thus makes infrared spectroscopy useful for several types of analysis, isn't it? We'll see how we can use the IR spectroscopy in the coming slides. Criteria for a compound to absorb IR radiation. What is the criteria for a compound to absorb IR radiation? Change in dipole moment. It should have the change in the dipole moment. This is the minimum and basic criteria to absorb a IR radiation. To absorb, to a molecule absorb a IR radiation. Change in dipole moment. It should have a change in the dipole momentum, isn't it? A molecule can only absorb IR radiation when its absorption causes a change in its electric dipole moment. there is a, if we have a any change in its electric dipole moment, that molecule can absorb the IR radiation. Otherwise it cannot absorb the IR radiation, isn't it? That means it should have the change in the dipole moment. A polar bond is usually IR active. Why? Because there is a change in the dipole moment, isn't it? A non-polar bonding in a symmetrical molecule will absorb weakly or not at all, isn't it? If a non-polar bond in a symmetrical molecule, there is no any change in the dipole momentum, so there is IR inactive. If you see molecular vibrations of IR, we will discuss about the vibrations, how, which type of vibrations are present in a molecules. Okay, here molecular vibrations are two types. One is fundamental vibration, another one is non-fundamental vibrations. Coming to the fundamental vibrations, here we have two types again, that is stretching vibration and another one is bending vibration. In stretching vibration we will have symmetric stretching and asymmetric stretching, and bending vibration in plane bending and out of plane bending. In plane bending again we have scissoring and rocking type, and out of plane bending type we have wagging and twisting type of the molecular vibrations. What are they? We will discuss later in detail. Molecular vibrations, there are two types of vibrations, stretching vibrations and bending vibrations. Stretching vibrations, vibration or oscillation along the line of a bond, vibration or oscillation along the line of a bond. As we discussed in the earlier slide, vibration or oscillation along the line, here along the line of the bond, stretching is there, change in bond length. Due to the stretching there is a change in the bond length, it may be decrease or it may be increase, occurs at higher frequency. These stretching vibrations can occur at higher frequencies, that high energetic radiation, that is 4000 to 1250 inverse centimeter. There is two types of stretching vibrations, one is symmetrical stretching, another one is asymmetrical stretching. Yeah, coming to the symmetrical stretching, bond, here the bonds increase or decrease in length simultaneously. Both the bonds are increase or decrease in length simultaneously. This is called as symmetrical stretching. If you see, there is a simultaneous decrease and or increase, isn't it? Bond lengths are decreasing and increasing, decreasing, increasing. Both bonds increase or decrease in length simultaneously is known as symmetrical stretching, isn't it? Symmetrically they are stretching, isn't it? The bonds are stretching in symmetrical way. And what is mean by asymmetrical stretching? If you see here, in this, one bond length is increased and other one is decreased. Here this one is increased, this one is decreased, this one is increased, this one is decreased, isn't it? This is a asymmetrical stretching. One is decreasing, one is increasing. This is a asymmetrical stretching vibration. And coming to the bending vibrations, vibration or oscillation not along the line of the bond, also called as deformation. Vibration or oscillation not along the line, there is no stretching like along the bond, isn't it? In these vibrations bond angle is altered, occurs at low frequency, it occurs at low frequency, that is 1400 to 666 inverse centimeters. It's a low frequency and low energetic vibrations. These bending vibrations are the low frequency or low energetic vibrations. These bending vibrations are two types, one is in plane bending and another one is out of plane bending. What is in plane bending? Here we have two types again. In plane, that means the bending can take place, bond bending can take place in the plane. It is scissoring. First type is scissoring. This is an in plane bending. Two atoms approach each other, bond angles are decreased. If you see here, the uh, two bonds, two atoms coming to approach, come to each other, isn't it? Come to each other here. In this bond angles are decreased, isn't it? This is an in plane bending. It's a scissor type blending, isn't it? It's a scissor type bending. And rocking, what is rocking? Movement of atoms take place in the same direction. Movement of atoms take place in the same direction, isn't it? Both are can take same direction. Both the bonds are taking same the direction. It may be right, it may be left, isn't it? This is known as rocking type of vibrations. And coming to second type, that is out of plane bending vibrations. Out of plane bending vibration, these are out of plane. The bending can occur in the out of plane. Here we have two types, wagging and twisting. And coming to the wagging, two atoms move to one side of the plane. They move up and down the plane like this one, isn't it? It may be near to observer, or it may be far away from the observer. Both bonds, isn't it? Both the bonds or both the atoms, two atoms move to one side of the plane. They move up and down the plane. It may be move up and it may be down the plane. What do you mean by the twisting here? One atom moves above the plane and another atom moves below the plane here, isn't it? One atom moves above the plane and another atom moves below the plane like this. If you see here, one is coming to nearer and one is going to far away, away from the viewer. Or one atom moves above the plane and another atom moves below the plane. This type of vibrations is known as twisting vibrations. Twisting vibrations. How to calculate the vibrational modes? How many? Number of vibrational modes. For a linear, if you see here, for a non-linear molecule, number of types of vibrations is equals to 3n minus 6. It's a formula. For a linear molecule, number of types of vibrations is equals to 3n minus 5. Here n is number of atoms in a molecule. If you see example, that is HCl, which is a diatomic molecule and linear one, isn't it? It's a linear one and also diatomic molecule. So the equation is 3n minus 5. Here N is 2 atoms, isn't it? N is 2 atoms. 2 minus 5 is equals to 1 mode, isn't it? In this HCl, only one mode is possible, isn't it? Only one mode is possible. This is stretching frequency is possible. There is no any bending, isn't it? Already we have only two atoms. There is no any bending. And coming to the CO2 molecule, it is also a linear molecule, isn't it? From the equation we will get 4 modes here, isn't it? From the equation we will get 4 modes. Here stretching one is symmetrical stretching, one asymmetric stretching, and 2 are the bendings here. From these 3, isn't it? We will discuss later these things. Finally we'll get 4 modes here, isn't it? What are IR active, what are IR inactive? We'll see one example. You will get understand easily. CO2, if you see, 4 modes are there, isn't it? 4 modes are there. One is symmetrical stretching, another one is asymmetrical stretching. Remaining 2 are the bending vibrations. From these 4, first one is the IR inactive. IR inactive. Why? Because there is a if you see here, there is a symmetrical stretching. So there is no any change in the dipole momentum. Net dipole momentum is equals to 0. So wherever the dipole momentum is 0, net dipole momentum, then that is IR inactive. From these 4, one is IR inactive, remaining 3 are the IR active. Coming to the instrumentation, a common FTIR spectrometer consists of a source, interferometer, sample compartment, detector, amplifier, AC-DC converter, and a computer. These are the things we have in the IR instrumentation. And the source generates radiation here which passes the sample through the interferometer and reaches the detector. Then the signal is amplified and converted into a digital signal by the amplifier and analog to digital converter respectively. Eventually, the signal is transferred to a computer in which Fourier transform is carried out. Okay, we'll see the instrumentation here. This is the infrared instrumentation. If you see here, we have three compartments. First compartment is having IR source, and second compartment is having sample compartment, and third that is final compartment is having detector. Okay, this is the simple diagram to understand the IR spectrophotometer. Here there is a IR energy source, isn't it? IR energy source. Here we have mirror which can reflect both sides. Here we have the reference cell, and here we have the sample, that is testing cell, isn't it? Beam chopper is there, and again mirror reflection is there. Then here we will get the diffracting grating split is there, and through this amplifier connected, and this amplifier can finally record the spectrum, and we will get the spectrum from here which is connected to the computer here, isn't it? This is the simple mechanism which is behind the IR spectrophotometer. What are the applications? Applications of the IR spectrophotometer: identification of substances through the IR FTIR, that is IR spectroscopy. We can identify the substance. We can identify the substance through the IR spectrophotometer. To compare spectrums, no two samples will have identical IR spectrum. We already discussed this thing, isn't it? No two samples will have identical IR spectrum. So we can simply identify unknown compound by its own functional group characteristic values, isn't it? If you see here criteria, sample and reference must be tested in identical conditions like physical state, temperature, solvent, etc. Isn't it? Criteria, what is the criteria here? Sample and reference must be tested in identical conditions like physical state, temperature, solvent, etc. Here the fingerprint region, what is that? 600 to 1200 inverse centimeter. This is the range is called the fingerprint region. Here in this fingerprint region, the small differences in structure and constitution of molecule result in significant changes in the peaks in this region. If you have any small differences in structure and constitution of a molecule, result in significant changes in their peaks in this region. Which region? That is fingerprint region. So that we can simply identify the unknown compounds. Hence this region helps to identify an unknown compound. And from the IR spectroscopy, we can also study the progress of a reaction. Studying progress of a reaction. That means whether the reaction is going on or not, how the rate, what is the rate of the reaction, how the progress of the reaction can take place, we can know from the IR spectroscopy. Here observing the rate of disappearance of characteristic absorption band in reactants, isn't it? Rate of increasing absorption bands in products of a particular product. We can, by observing these things, we can simply analyze the progress of the reaction, isn't it? Observing rate of disappearance of the characteristic absorption band in the reactants, and same thing in the characteristic absorption band in the product. By observing these, that means this one, observing the rate of disappearance of the characteristic absorption band will decrease slowly, and increasing absorption bands in the product of a in the products of a particular product, isn't it? Here increasing band, here decreasing characteristic band. For example, if we convert OH to C11O in the reaction, this OH stretching band will decrease slowly, and this C11O stretching band will increase gradually, isn't it? That is known as there is a progress of the reaction. and measure the degree of the polymerization in chemical compounds. And by using this spectroscopy we can measure the degree of the polymerization in chemical compounds. And determination of molecular structure, we can also determine the molecular structure by using other spectroscopic techniques used along with other spectroscopic techniques along with other spectroscopic, not only FTIR or IR spectroscopy. Here along with other spectroscopic techniques we can determine the molecular structure of the unknown compound. Identification is done based on position of absorption bands in the spectrum. Identification is done based on the position of absorption bands in the spectrum. For example, if we get 1717 inverse centimeter from the spectrum, that is we can easily identify there is a C double bond O functional group in the molecule, isn't it? In this way we can analyze the which the functional groups are present in unknown compound. By that we can determine the molecular structure along with other spectroscopic techniques also. If you see, for example, one spectrum, that is 1-butanol spectrum. This is a 1-butanol spectrum, that is CH3 CH2 taken twice, OH is there. Here if you see this broad peak, that is around 3400 3300, here we have a broad band here which is related to the OH stretching frequency. It is related to the OH stretching frequency. If you see here, this one around 3000, CH stretching is there. CH stretching is there. Saturated one, CH stretching comes around 3000, isn't it? And here we have CO stretching, isn't it? Here we have CO stretching around 1050 or around 1050 1100, isn't it? From this spectra we can simply guess the molecule, what the molecule is, isn't it? IR spectrum of alkanes. How the IR spectrum of alkanes is there, will be there. Alkanes have no functional groups, isn't it? There is only CC bond is there or CH bond is there, isn't it? That's it. Their IR spectrum displays only CC and CH bond vibrations. There is no any another functional groups. Of these, the most useful are the CH bands which appear around 3000 inverse centimeter due to CH stretching vibrations. If you see here, around 3000 CH stretching is there, and around this one, that is 1500, we have CH bending vibration is there. This is the spectrum, IR spectrum of N-hexane. And how the alkenes spectrum is there. From the alkenes, if you take one example, that is 1-hexene. Here we have 3080 around, a band is there, that is double bond CH stretching, that is double bond CH stretching. Here around 3000 we have CH stretching again, isn't it? And 1642 C double bond C stretching is there, which is a sharp one. It is a sharp C double bond C band will come as sharp, comes as sharp, that is 1642 inverse centimeter. Here CH bending again we have. This is the spectrum of alkenes. This is another example of alkenes. These are the abbreviated table of group frequencies for organic groups. Some of the organic groups has tabulated here. From this we can guess the functional group, which functional group is there. Here alkanes, alkenes, frequency ranges, alkynes, C triple bond C, isn't it? This C double bond C. This alkanes mean nothing but CC, C single bond C. These things. From this we can simply guess the functional group which is present in a molecule. We need to know about these things. And another application is detection of impurities. If you have a compound is there any impurities, we can easily identify from the IR. Determined by comparing sample spectrum with the spectrum of pure reference compound. Example, ketone impurity in alcohol. If you have a compound, uh, you need to take that IR spectrum, and also a pure one you need to take IR spectrum, a pure compound IR spectrum. Both you can analyze, if there is there any bands difference is there. So that's why we can guess there is a impurity. Here if you see here, detection is favored when impurity possess a strong band in IR region where the main substance do not possess a band. Detection is favored when the impurity possess a strong band in IR region where the main substance do not possess a band. If we have this type of spectrum, we can easily identify the impurity present in the molecule. Example, impurity in beeswax with petroleum wax. Okay, this is the example for the detection of impurities. And one more application is there, that is monitoring of the structural plasticity of plant cell walls, isn't it? Monitoring the structural plasticity of plant cell walls. If you see here, alpha D glucose, beta D glucose, methyl alpha D glucose, pyranoside, these are all the walls, cell walls which are made up, and these are the related wave numbers. If we have these data, we can easily identify the plant cell walls, isn't it? So this is one of the applications. And another application is protein quantitation. IR spectroscopy is one of the most well established techniques for the analysis of the protein structure. For the analysis of the protein structure, we also use IR spectroscopy. In protein, amino acids are covalently linked via amide bonds, isn't it? In protein, amino acids are covalently linked or covalently bonded via amide bonds, that is called peptide bonds. It absorbs in multiple regions of the mid-IR spectrum. By measuring amide bonds in protein chains, we can accurately quantify an intrinsic component of every protein. In this way, we can quantize the protein by using IR spectroscopy. Here one more application is there, that is non-invasive blood glucose monitoring. It is a glucose monitoring application. Here near infrared spectroscopy is used across the earlobe to measure the glucose. Amount of the near infrared light passing through the earlobe depends on the amount of blood glucose in that region. Depending on the blood glucose in that region, that is ear region, the light passing will be differ, isn't it? The light passing will be differ depending upon the blood glucose in that ear region. So in that way we can determine the blood glucose. The earlobe was chosen due to the absence of bone tissues and also because of its relatively small thickness. And here we have some other applications, that is determination of unknown contaminants in industry using FTIR, determination of cell walls of mutant and wild type plant varieties using FTIR, biomedical studies of human hair to identify disease states, recent approach. It is a recent approach. Biomedical studies of human hair to identify disease states. This is a recent approach by using FTIR, that is IR spectroscopy. Determine atmospheric pollutants. We can also determine the atmospheric pollutants from atmosphere itself. And examination of old paintings. We can examine the old paintings. And finally, it is also used in forensic analysis in both criminal and civil cases. Example, in identifying polymer degradation, in determining the blood alcohol content, etc. Okay, we can use in the forensic analysis also in both criminal and civil cases. Example, in identifying polymer degradation and in determining the blood alcohol content, etc. Okay, this is the explanation about the FTIR, that is IR spectroscopy, and we will discuss later in next lecture.